Ever since I was young, I've been fascinated by all things trains. But most importantly, their destinations and the lives they affect. Join me, Drew Sagona, on a Railhead's ultimate bucket list as we follow the tracks to a host of wonderful destinations. From big trains to small trains, from small towns to large cities. Hop on board for all the adventures right here on Drewski's Trains and Travels. Well, we're here at the Soundtraxx booth. We're here with Norman Carnaby, who is the customer service representative for Soundtraxx today, here to talk about their new Blunami system. So Norman, thank you so much for doing this with us today.
Absolutely.
So can you, I know that this is a very, very new thing to the model train market. Yeah. So can you tell us a little bit about what Blunami is?
So Blunami, it's an evolution of our Tsunami 2 product line. And so it descends from our line of DCC sound decoders, where it's designed to control the motor, the lights, and the sound all in one package. But what we've done now is we've actually integrated a Bluetooth chip directly onto the decoder itself. So now instead of requiring you to send some sort of signal over the track to get it to the locomotive, there's a Bluetooth chip directly on the decoder, which can communicate with the Blunami app on your phone or tablet. It's been iOS only up until very, very recently, but the Android open beta just got published on the Play Store, so now it's all phones and tablets.
Okay. So when you're, because I know a little bit about, MTH's DCS system or, DCC a little bit. So the difference with this is, are there any cons to the Blunami system as far as how it works?
No, actually. So what?
Yeah, could you demonstrate
certainly
how this works?
So I'm actually connected to that Milwaukee Road E7 back there.
Okay.
This other tablet running the Android beta is actually connected to our Steam Loco here, and I have full control, exactly as if this were on a DCC system. But as you can see from this back here, this entire table is running off of one 10-amp DC power pack.
Okay.
So this guy's running off it. This guy's actually on a battery. So if you want to use dead rail with this system, you can. I just broke a horn off. And where was I? Right. So we have full control of everything through the app here. So bell, got my horn, I've got all this, and all my function list, if I just pull out this menu on the side here, I have my full function list for the entire decoder, including all of my auxiliary lighting output, like my number boards and my Mars light.
Okay, very cool.
Unlike a DCC decoder, everything can just be set up through easy-to-use menus here in the app. So let's say I want it, right now I have an S3L horn selected just as a demo. But let's grab a different horn real quick. Let's grab an A200.
Okay.
I can just change the horn right there like that. No CVs.
Wow.
Required.
Now, before, you had to go in and program everything to that, correct? Okay.
Correct. This would have been controlled on our Tsunami 2 by a CV120.
Okay. And
you would have had to grab the sound selection reference from the Soundtraxx website. But now, with the app, with the direct connection to the decoder, the app knows, okay, this is in this model, actually, it's a EMD Blue 2200. Okay. And it knows what sounds are loaded into it.
Gotcha.
So I can just go through and I can select all my sounds. So I've got right now the Dual 567 selected, which is correct for an E unit. But let's say I want to grab a 710. I can just change the prime mover right there. And now it's going to fire up as an EMD 710.
Wow, that is something. So for guys that are in, like, for example, in 3-rail O-scale, and they want to put the Blunami into their locomotives, how would they go about doing that? Because I know that's been a question.
So that's where things get a bit complicated, because it is going to depend on exactly how the locomotive is set up.
Okay.
If you're using one of the AC motors, that's going to be a bit more difficult, because the Blunami, it is descending from DCC sound decoders. Okay. It's not designed to address AC motors.
Okay.
So you will need to replace that motor with a DC motor or get something to convert between the two. As for power, though, it's a bit easier, because you can rectify AC into DC power.
Okay.
And in fact, I believe somebody recently published an article on how to do that.
Okay.
I don't remember exactly where off the top of my head. But using that method, if you take the Blue 4408, which is our large-scale Blunami, it has a 4-amp motor circuit, 3-watt audio amplifier, and 8 independent lighting outputs. So you can control all kinds of lights from it. If you use that decoder in a O-scale model, you can, and it already, if it has the DC motors already, which most of the modern ones do, you can just plunk that in, and it will take full control of the model. So basically, all the existing electronics will want to be replaced.
Okay.
So you want to pull all of that out. The Blue 4408 uses screw terminals, so all wires can just be run into it and screwed down, and then you're off to the races.
Gotcha. So it hasn't been, if I'm understanding you right, it hasn't been completely perfected yet for O-scale use. It's more for the HO and N market right now?
So right now, the Blue 4408 specifically is more targeted at the G and the 2-rail O.
Okay, gotcha.
But if you are willing to build a rectifier circuit, it is perfectly acceptable to use in 3-rail O with the AC power.
Gotcha.
Because once you've got I'm pretty sure almost modern 3-rail O is actually using DC motors with an internal rectifier.
Gotcha. Okay. Well,
so
again, I was just wondering because, there's been a lot of questions about that, how it pertains to 3-rail O scale.
Yes.
And I knew in HO and N that it's been like one of those like game changers.
Yeah.
For the industry, because you're not doing it specifically off of track power the way that you used to, if I'm understanding you right.
Correct. Well, you can't, with Blunami, because it has that onboard communication, we can run on battery. So let me actually just start this guy up here. I need to turn the battery on.
Okay.
We keep it shut down just to save power. And here's the tablet. And so I've gone back here, and my new locomotive, the Lego SD40-2, which is this guy, has already shown up, and it's all auto-connected, so I can just hit standard, and what it's doing right now is it's actually reading the decoder.
Okay.
So it's going through, it's reading the CVs, it's figuring out what decoder this is and what its configuration is. So we wait for this to finish, it gives you a little horn to signal that it's done. So if I select the right locomotive here, and I can have full control on battery.
Okay. Now, does everything have to work on battery for Blunami?
No.
No? Okay.
It can run off track power just fine. So, for instance, the E unit over here is, in fact, running directly off that DC track power.
Okay, gotcha.
So, the point is that Blunami doesn't care what sort of power it gets. It just needs power.
Okay. Okay.
Where you get that power, it does not give one hoot or holler.
Okay, that's very, very, very important. Very, very important, guys, because I know a lot of people have asked online whether Blunami was specifically just battery power based.
Nope.
So obviously, according to Norman here, it's not. You can run it with any sort of power that you please. Correct?
Yeah. The only restriction at the moment is AC power, and it's not even because we can't take it or it's going to damage anything. We already have a small rectifier built in, but it's designed to rectify DCC track power. Okay. And in case you don't know, DCC track power, it's sort of a square wave like this, if your sort of zero line is here, whereas AC is doing this. So the reason Blunami can't currently run on the AC power is not because it can't rectify the sine wave, it's because it can't bridge those troughs. Because even if you rectify it and you've got two lines sort of doing this, there's a gap that was right here in the power, and it can't bridge that.
Gotcha.
It's still fairly young. We launched it at the National Train Show last year. We only had one board format at that time, the Blue 2200, which is why it's being used in so many of our demo locos.
Right.
This guy's using it, that steam engine's using it, that guy's using it. So, and it's only recently where we've really been able to start to get more board formats out. So for instance, at Amherst this year, is when we launched the Blue 4408, which is what we have in the Jeep 38 here. Okay. And that's the 4-amp board that can work in O scales and larger.
Gotcha.
Because typically, unless you're running something small like a switcher, and in those scales, your motors are typically high enough current draw that you can't run on the 2 amp HO decoders.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Well, so if people are interested in finding out more about Blunami or Soundtraxx, or maybe installing that system into what they have currently, how can they get in touch with you guys?
So we're available either at sales@soundtraxx.com or support@soundtraxx.com, and we can actually be reached by phone at 970-259-0690. We're open from Monday to Friday, 9 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. Mountain Time.
Okay, all right, awesome. Well, Norman with Soundtraxx, again, if you're interested in the Blunami system, maybe installing it in your locomotives, or maybe you just want to find out a little bit more about it, go to soundtraxx.com, check it out. They have plenty of videos on the system. And again, Norman, thank you so much for talking to us today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
All righty.